Yep, you read that right, lads. I'm not mucking about. No clickbait titles here. I truly believe that the Orks are in a bad spot, and that they may just be the worst army in 40k as it is right now. And I've got quite a few reasons as to why. And with that, enough talk. Let's get right into this. So, today I'd like to go over the current state of the Ork faction within Warhammer 40k, as well as the overall game in addition. Because I'm gonna be honest with you lads, it ain't too good right now. A lot of people are starting to leave the game, or at least stop playing it altogether, because of how bad it's been. So I'll give you a rundown, and we'll see what we can do to maybe make some changes. Because as we know, good old geedubs likes to come out with them balanced data slates and points adjustments every month or two, and we're about due for one. So, for squigs and giggles, I'd like to go over a couple wishlist things that I'd like to see added to the game, such as a few points changes, some unit overhauls I'd like to see, and a couple rule changes as well. So that way us boys can get back on top and the Orks can be as best as it's ever been. So, what is the current state of the Ork faction? Well, for starters, we've got just under a 43% win rate as a faction within the competitive scene. That is absolutely horrid, lads. I do not like to see it. I don't think I've ever seen it that low in my time playing this game. Here, I'll even show it to you to back it up. So, as you all can see, I'm on the good old Goonhammer website here, which posts all of the weekly, monthly, competitive stats for the entirety of the game of 40k. So what I've done is I've started it just about the start of July, and it's been updated all the way to August 6th. This is being recorded in 2025. Right here, games by factions 1, the big scary tin boys, the Imperial Knights and the Chaos Knights, and even the Death Guard, who are also pretty big and scary. These are the big boogeymen of the meta right now, and all of them are hovering around that 56 to 59, almost 60% win rate. So for a competitive game that's supposed to be as balanced as possible, at least we'd like for that to be the thing, this is way too high. And this right here is mainly the reason why a lot of people are displeased with the game, because the Big Ten boys and the Stinky boys are just massively above everybody else in the game. If you show up to a tournament and you're playing against one of these three factions, odds are things ain't gonna go too well for you. We don't like to see that, but as we keep scrolling here, unfortunately, you'll see all the way at the bottom, you've got us lads. Now we're not the quite bottom of the barrel, we do have the good old Imperial agents, but I mean, nobody really considers them a faction, to be perfectly honest, and hardly anybody plays them at all. So when you look at real armies, the Orks are unfortunately at the bottom, and that's where we get that 42.99% win rate right here. It's not great, lads. It's not great. So, why are we at the bottom, and how would I fix it? Let's see. Well, as I touched on a little bit before, the current meta is full of bad matchups. Us Orks, we have horrible matchups into the Death Guard specifically, seeing as how them stinky boys have plenty of anti-infantry flamers that can overwatch the heck out of your boys all the time. They've got lots of indirect that can take out our lads pretty effectively from long range due to our poor saves. Them being able to give you -1 toughness from just being next to them takes away our main durability, which is that we lads are having pretty high toughness, so taking that away is very, very bad. And a multitude of other things. They're very cheap points wise for what you get. Them Death Shroud Terminators are leagues above anything else in our book. And then you got the Big Tin boys, which got so stupidly cheap that you can run, the Chaos Tin boys can run 6 big knights in a list. That's insane. And the Orks typically struggle into high toughness targets. We don't have a lot of effective anti-vehicle punch. We've got tank busters, but they keep getting points nerfs. They're very expensive now, and sometimes, unfortunately, being as they are an Ork shooting unit, you can kind of just whiff. Breaker boys are pretty good, but they have very low volume, which means anything with an invuln typically will prevent you from doing what they need to do, which is kill the vehicles. Power claw knobs are pretty good, and they have good volume, but their strength is lacking a lot, because on the wall they're only strength 10. A lot of big vehicles are strength 11, strength 12, which means you're winning on 5, so they're not that great at it. Gazzy can flip tanks no problem, but he's only one lad, and he is quite slow. So it just means us boys are struggling into a lot of those big armies that are tearing up the meta right now. We also have the repetitive nerfs, which have been hitting us every single Dataslate Minotaur and Field Manual for about a year now. They've left us with little or no options. We've been fortunate to be getting a bunch of free updates from good old geedubs. We got the Daka detachment, we got Tactical Brigade, we've gotten all sorts of things. Lots of nice, pretty toys for the lads. But it doesn't help if good old geedub is taking them away from us right afterwards. When our codex first dropped, we had Bully Boys, which was really good. Everybody was running as many mega knobs as you could take. They had that good 4-up Feel No Pain on the wall, which you would get it for 2 turns, of course, and Bully Boys. It was really, really good, and the lads were having a great time with it. The G-Dub found it a little bit too intense for the meta at the time, so they nerfed it into the ground. So then what did the lads do? We adapted. We went to Green Tide. We were running seas of boys across the tabletop, having a good old time, crumping as many lads as we could come across, running 300 models sometimes. It was a good fun time. What did G-Dub do? They nerfed it. They took away the reroll ones for non-boy units. They made our stratagems a lot worse in that detachment, and it hurt every lad's feelings. Then what happened after that? We got Tactics Brigade as our Grotmiss detachment. You know, Grotmiss. The whole event, the whole month of December, that was all based around the Orks and how we be bringing the toys and gifts to all the lads that play this dang game, but yet we're the ones who get the short end of the stick. Tactics Brigade was really fun, really flavorful. We were effectively playing Ork version of the Humi Git Imperial Guard, letting our mech boys and our bosses run around and order our lads, giving them all types of buffs. It was really fun and enjoyable. And when that came out, alongside our new revamped Tank Busters and the new Breaker Boys unit, the Orks, it was like a second codex drop, effectively. It was a brand new lease on life on what the army could do. But then what happened? It got nerfed into the ground. Tank Busters went up in points by a bunch. Shock Attack Gun mechs went up in points. The tactics rule changed to where you couldn't double up anymore, and it ruined the detachment. You couldn't play it anymore. And what happened after that? The infamous Daka detachment dropped. Out of nowhere, too. G-Dub decided that they were going to do these quarterly new detachment thingies. They'd do like 3 of them every 3 months or whatever. And us Orks were lucky to get another detachment. A Daka detachment. One that us lads have been asking for ever since the edition dropped. We want a shooting-based detachment. No Dread Mob, which is a shooting detachment only for our big walkers. We wanted a proper shooty detachment that helps buff your flash gits, and more importantly, your shooter boys. Nobody's ever seen shooter boys on a tabletop for years now, and now we finally had a reason to put them down. But what did G-Dub do? They just couldn't write a good, fun, strong detachment without having it ruin the game. As turns out, giving every gun in your army sustained hits too, and access to rerolls or extra APs, ignore covers, or all those kinds of things, tends to make orc shooting very, very good. And I understand that they had to nerf it, but completely burying it in the ground, never to be seen again? That's a whole nother story. But G-Dub just couldn't figure it out. So as a result, now we can't even play that detachment anymore. Seriously. So what did the lads have to do? We had to go back to Warhorde. Good old Warhorde. Our index attachment, brought back in the codex, sustained hits, in melee. That is what you get. That is the detachment that you will play for the rest of the edition. Coulter Speed will give you a little bit of a boost. Will give you a little bit of a boost to make you happy, but buggies are still going to be shit, so you're not going to run a detachment. So you're only going to do Warhorde. You are going to play Warhorde, and yous is going to like it. And that's what we've been stuck with for the past 3 to 6 months now. So because of all these things, we desperately need codex depth. We had depth before, but it was all taken away from us due to nerfs and whatnot. But even aside from detachments, we have a lot of units in our book. The Orks are one of the largest factions in the game in terms of pure unit count and model count. And there's quite a few units in our book that you never see because they were just written poorly, or they have bad rules, or they're just pointed very badly and they've just never been touched. I feel like a balanced data slate could correct all these things and make a lot of shadowed units in our book proper gits again. So here's hoping. So, as for points changes, here's a few things I would like to see with the coming data slate. First up's a Death Dread. Right now it's 120 points. I'd like that to see be gone down to 110. That being that our Dread equivalent is a little bit too pricey for what you actually get. The Death Dread, it's pretty clunky. It's got an 8-inch move, it's only got 4 attacks base, it's got that weird dead killy rule, so it gets the extra swings when you bring more claws and whatnot, which is nice. But being a vehicle with an 8-inch move, specifically one that's more geared towards punching things more than anything, makes it pretty slow, because you have to be able to maneuver around all them big buildings that you see on the tables nowadays. And they can't go through walls, so they gotta go around everything. For 120 points, I'd rather bring something else instead of some big clunky melee thing that might not even make it to the fight before the game's already decided. Squidhog Boys, 150 points they are right now for 4 of these piggies. It's just too much. If you want to bring a max squad of these lads, it is 300 points. That is incredibly large amount of points. I'd like to see them get dropped all the way to 130. As for what you're paying for, you're mainly getting a defensive stat line. They have high toughness, they've got the feel no pain, which is nice, but they don't really do any damage. I hate that they made the pigs hit on 4s now, and now that the knob on Nasha Squig is no longer a unit, it's now just the sergeant or knob leader in the Squidhog squad. He doesn't give them that +1 to hit anymore. And that massively affects these guys, where their damage output is little to nothing. So I think 130 points for 4 of them is a pretty good middle ground. Commandos. So, as I've spoke about in my previous videos, infiltrating units is very, very important in today's games of 40k. So many armies have loads and loads of scout units, infiltrate units, or just units that just move super stupidly quick and can get in your face immediately on turn 1. So you need an infiltrate unit to help prevent your opponent from being able to just do that freely every single game. Most of the time I bring Snickrot because he's cheaper. So as a result, I think the commandos should go from their 120 that they are at right now down to 105. I don't know why they're this expensive in the first place. I mean, I get that they came out in a Kill Team release, and they have the weird Kill Team isms, I like to call them, where typically what'll happen is a Kill Team release will come out, a box of models will come out from that game. And because they're used in a skirmish game like Kill Team, which has a bunch of different little knick-knacky type upgrades and all the different gubbins you can give to your individual dudes, they try to translate that into 40k. So as a result, the commandos, you can take Power Claw on the knob, you can take the Breacher Ram, you can take a burner, a big shooter, a custom shooter, a weird zappy gun thing. I don't even know if that exists anymore, but it did before. You can take all kinds of things on these lads, in addition to their War Gear additions, which is the Bomb Squig and the Distraction Grunt. So as a result, they are pointed, assuming that you're taking all them upgrades, even though half of them are damn near right useless. I miss when commandos were just slugger chopper boys who were sneaky and could move around the board with things like scouts and infiltrates. Because all I want them to do is to take up space in the mid-board, be cheap, and prevent my opponent from getting on me turn 1. So as a result, I think commandos should be much cheaper to be able to serve that role. Because even at 105, it's still pretty expensive for 10 boys with a weird rule. I mean, boys are 80 points for 10, and Beastnagger boys are like 95 for 10, so they're still the most expensive 10-pack of boys at 105, so I think that's more than reasonable. Next is Mozrog, big old scragbat himself, man. He used to be a demon on the tabletop. But ever since the Codex came out, and he got a big old rework, he's definitely a lot easier to kill now despite his title, and he's just not great for what you're paying for. 165 points is quite a lot, and I don't think he's worth it at that. I think he should go down to 150, especially when his cousin, the Beast Boss on Squigosaur, is only like 130 points. So if I'm paying 130 for a Squig Boss, is Mozrog really worth the 35 point upgrade for what you get with him? Like, you get the extra damage on his mount, and he gets extra damage against like Titans and whatnot, which is cool, but it doesn't come up a whole lot. So as a result, I think he should go down. Next up is the Pain Boy. Now the Pain Boy's gotten nerfed in the past because of the aforementioned Green Tide. People were running loads of 20-man bricks with War Bosses and Pain Boys, which makes pretty good packages. 20 boys with a War Boss. The War Boss is going to hit a bunch of times with his Power Claw during the war. The Pain Boy gives the lads the 5-up Feel No Pain, as well as resurrects them once per game. So between the Pain Boy bringing back lads and Green Tide's stratagem that also brings back lads, you could bring back a bunch of boys over the course of the game. And he got nerfed as a cause of it. But that was in conjunction with Green Tide getting nerfed as well, to make it to where nobody really considered that detachment anymore anyways. And you don't see it at tournaments anymore. As a result, I think he should go back down to 70 points. And his awful cousin, the Pain Boss, which is a pretty good contender for worst unit in the book, he also caught a nerf alongside the Pain Boy, and nobody knows as to why. Maybe it's just because geedub told the interns, like, hey, anything in the book that says pain in it, up its points. Pain Boys is bad. It just is. He can only lead Beast Snagger boys, and he has the same ability where he can bring back D3 Beast Snaggers once per game. But whereas with Beast Snaggers, you can only run them in 10-man squads, and they already have a 6-up Feel No Pain natively, so it's not like the Pain Boss is giving them that in addition to bringing back lads, so he's just not worth the points. I'm going to put him down to 60, and even then, unless his rules change, I feel like you could probably drop him even more than that. And lastly, the Rocket Truck Squig Buggy. Similarly, this thing got hit with collateral nerfs back when indirect fire was a very big meta smashing thing about a year or two ago now. Them Huey Gits and them Stinky Boys were abusing an indirect fire as much as possible. Them and the Spiky Ears, I think, too, them elves. So much so, the geedub had to change it, make it to where they could only hit on a 4 at best, plus you get the -1 to hit, and whatever you're shooting at gets cover. So it was just nerf to all the indirect fire pieces, as well as everything in the game that has indirect fire, whether it was an issue or not in the past, got points hikes, including our dear old Rocket Truck Squig Buggy here, which was already bad before, and it went up in points, because why not? So it's the most expensive of the buggies. The buggies are already pretty bad as is, so I think going down to 85 is more than fair. Alright, now for unit overhauls, here's a couple rule changes I'd like to see. So, the buggies are zogging useless. Don't take them. They're as cheap as possible, but they still don't do any damage. They take up way too much space on the table, and they're just very clunky to play, because you can't hide them behind ruins due to how big they are, so which means they're just going to get shot, picked up off the table immediately. They're not great. So what would I do to change them? First up, we get the Megatrack Scrap Jet. What I'd do is I'd take its rocket cannon, which is its main weapon, and have it go to 3d3 shots, which currently it is d6 plus 1 with blast, which I keep blast, but making it 3d3 shots means it's just more reliable that way. Because the average on 3d3 is 6, versus the average on a d6 plus 1 is going to be 4 or 5. But there's more variance to it. On a d6 plus 1, you could get a 2, or you could get a 7. Versus with 3d3, at minimum, you're getting 3 shots, but at max, you're getting 9 shots. That's not including blast, of course. So it just means that you're not rolling that big stinky one as much. Plus, I'd give it anti-vehicle 4+, because it's just rocket shots. Strength 9, AP 2, 3 flat damage. Issue is, Strength 9 does not pop vehicles anymore. This ain't last edition, where Toughness 8 was usually the cap on most units, and there were only a couple things in the game that were Toughness 9. So giving it Anti-Vehicle 4+ means it'll be good at smashing elite infantry as well as punching up into them vehicles. Next we got the Custom Booster Blaster. This I'd like the Rivet Cannon to go to 10 shots. Right now I believe it's 6 with some rapid fire shots, but if it can go to 10 base, just means that it'll be able to clear out them small Gribblies that much easier. Similar thought with the Boomdacker Snazwagon. It's a main gun to mech special. Wanted to go to strength 6 because it's already got a large volume of shots, but it's only strength 5 and it's AP 1. But going to strength 6 means it'll be wounding a lot of those horde type units like Yumi Git infantry or the small bugs. It'll wound them on 2s at strength 6, which means it'll be more effective as a horde clearer like it should be. Next is the aforementioned Rocket Truck Squig Buggy. I would like its squig launchers to go to AP 2 instead of AP 1, as again with all the indirect nerfs, whatever you're shooting at, if you're firing indirectly, has cover, which actually now that I'm looking at it, it already has ignore cover on the Rocket Truck. So all the more better just means that AP 2 plus ignores cover means it's effectively going to be AP 3, and it'll allow this weird pseudo artillery piece to do a lot more damage. Because right now it's just way too swingy. It's an artillery piece, ignore cover, that hits on 5's base, which means if you are using it indirectly, it's hitting on 6's, and there's no way to give it a +1 to hit. It's very, very not viable. So allowing it to hit a bit harder means when you do roll them 5's and 6's, it should be able to punch pretty good. Next is a Shock Jump Dragster. Now this lad, I'd like its Shock Tunnel ability, the one that allows you to deep strike off the table and drop down back on the table if you choose to advance. I'd like for it to be able to give you a 6-inch deep strike instead of the normal 9. Because my main issue again with the Shock Jump is because it's so big. It's on that big buggy base like all the other ones are. So if you try to use its ability and you try to put it somewhere on the table, say you're trying to deep strike it in your opponent's lines, it's very hard to do so because it's easy for your opponent to screen out a giant buggy base like that. So if the Shock Jump can 6-inch deep strike, it allows it to get into those back pockets behind your enemy's lines easier, as well as you could potentially even use a 6-inch deep strike to block opponents from moving forward. Say you park it between 2 buildings in the midboard, and all of a sudden your opponent can't move through it, unless they're infantry, they can go through the walls. So I think it'd be really good at doing that. Aside from the buggies, I've got some other gits. Here's a Death Dread again. So if they're not going to change the points on it, I'd like them to change the rules. You gotta make it faster, because again, that 8-inch movement with being a vehicle is just too slow. You're gonna have to spend too much time getting around buildings instead of being able to just go through them like so many other things in the game. So make it faster somehow. Either give it a 10-inch move, or give it some rule like reroll advances, because its current rule is the Death Dread forces battle shock tests on units that it is engaged with at the start of the fight phase, which isn't terrible, but again, if it never gets to the fight phase, because it's so dang slow, then make it faster. Next, the Burner Boys. Make them either strength 5 or give them AP 1 burners. You look at them Infernus Marines, the Burner Boys and the Beakies, they just got a big overhaul, which has made them actually pretty good now. Can't remember if they gave them strength 6 or AP 1 or both or something like that, but basically do that with these lads. And then you'll see them as actual effective damage dealers rather than just being cheap units to throw out as screens or chaff to run and do objectives or whatever. Finally, the Whirlboy. Whirlboy, also a high contender for worst unit in the book. Give him a proper Zoggin power. As right now, the Roar of Mork power that it has right now, which allows you to pick an enemy unit within 18 inches in your command phase and confrazzle them, which gives them -2 to their battle shock or leadership tests. That's terrible, because Orks are not a faction that is good at forcing leadership checks on opposing gits. We ain't no buggies, Tyranids, and we ain't no spiky, scary tin boy chaos knights, so we don't really care about leadership checks. So give him something else. Go to past editions and look at the other psychic powers we had. Give him Headbanger, you can give him Fist of Gork, allow him to buff up whatever unit he's leading, or maybe take some big hitting boss and give him extra strength and extra attacks or something like that. Or you could just give him a generic do mortal wounds ability to opposing units. You know, make him like a weird Grey Knight, wizard, beaky psycho thing. Remember them librarians would just deep strike in, do 3d6 mortals to your face, and then zip out of town? Have the wereboy do that. Make him like 70, 80 points. Just have him come down, bomb somebody, and then run away. Just anything but whatever he's got right now. Alright, finally for a couple overall rule changes. Bomb squigs. I want them to change the wording to all bomb squigs, everybody that's got them. The Squig Hog Boys, Tank Busters, Breaker Boys, Commandos even, everybody. Change it to where it happens at the end of any normal or advanced move. Because how many times have I been playing a game and I call my wall and I advance my Breaker Boys out of their truck, or I advance my Tank Busters, or do whatever, and I cannot throw the Zoggin Bomb Squigs because it says specifically at the end of any normal move. So I can't deep strike in and throw them, I can't come in from reserves and do it, I can't advance up the board to try to charge somebody and do it. I only can move my 6 inches, and hopefully still be within range and visible now, because I changed that, to be able to throw me bomb squigs. So at least add an advanced move so I can do them on the Zoggin wall. And the other one, give the knob keyword to the rest of the knobs in the book. This is mainly going to be in reference to the Bully Boys detachment, because the Bully Boys detachment, which gives you the second war ability, is only for knob keyworded units. But aside from the unit knobs, nothing else in the book has the knob keyword. What about all these other big chunky lads in our book that are knob effective stat lines, you know, toughness 5, 2 wounds, 4 up armor save, better leadership, you know, all that kind of snaz gets? Give them to these lads. The Flash Gits, the new Tank Busters, and the new Breaker Boys, give them the knob keyword so they can benefit from the second war in Bully Boys. That would add a whole heap of flavor and a new lease on life to that detachment. The reason you don't see Bully Boys too much is because you're really only being affected by 2 units, knobs and mega knobs. It affects war bosses too, but your war bosses are going to go with your knobs to benefit from that -1 to be wounded, and they're not going to go with anything else like boys or burners or whatever. So all the Zoggin detachment is 2 units. So put the keyword on these lads, and you will get the grade A seal approval from the Krumper. And with that, that's all I got. So let me know what you think in the comments. Am I out of me Zoggin mind? Or are Orks really in a very bad spot right now? Doesn't mean you can't win games with the lads, of course. There's plenty of ways to do it still, but it is very much an uphill battle for any lad out there right now. So again, let me know what you think. This has been the Daily Krumper, signing off.